Hello and welcome to another Happily Letter After tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to draw a pumpkin in Procreate. So this is a little bit different and I am really excited to show you one of the new features that I absolutely love that the Procreate 5X version now has. So if you do not have that version, I definitely recommend getting it. Just update your Procreate app. It is fantastic, especially for those of you who have a small iPad like I do, because I like convenient small travel size. All right, so first thing in your canvases, go ahead and press the plus sign, and we are going to go ahead and we're going to create a new canvas. So I have a large square set up in here that I use to share on Instagram, and it's 3,000 pixels by 3,000 pixels, but feel free to use whatever size you're comfortable with. Okay, so what you're going to want to do is download the picture that I have available for you, and it's actually this cute little fox pumpkin that I found at Hobby Lobby, and I thought it would be really fun to draw. So I'm going to go into the wrench icon and go to add, insert a photo, and I'm going to grab my little fox. I'm going to enlarge him. That's a good size right there. Okay, and go to your wrench icon again, go to canvas, go to drawing guide, and we're going to edit the drawing guide. So I'm going to, let's see, there. I have it maxed so that there's the 4 quadrants. I want to try to get him as centered as possible. I know that might be hard to do, so go ahead, click on the arrow. I'm going to kind of line it up with his nose. So his nose looks like it is pretty even there on the center, and the center line of the pumpkin is good too. Okay, so what we're going to do first, we're going to go into this layer, click the N, and we're going to reduce the opacity pretty far down. I have it as 25. Hopefully you can still see it. We're going to add a new layer on top, and I'm going to rename this layer Sketch, so I know I'm going to sketch out our layers or our pumpkin here, and I'm going to grab my pure black, and you can double click the bottom of your circle on the disc view here to get that. And in my lettering set, I have a pencil that you can use to draw. You can use any tool you want to use to do this. So the easiest way to draw this pumpkin, since he is very symmetrical except for the tail, the stem, and the leaf, so we're going to draw those last. What we're going to do is we're going to go back into our wrench icon, go back to edit drawing guide, and we're going to turn on our symmetry so that it's vertical. So if you don't have vertical, it should be automatically, but if not, go into your options here and make sure you have vertical selected and you want assisted drawing on. That's important. And if you don't have that, your layer, if it doesn't say assisted drawing, you can click on the layer and then click assisted or drawing assist right here. That way it'll be the same on either side. So let's start. All right, so whatever we do on one side is going to happen to the other. So it doesn't matter which side you start with, but it does matter that you just stick with one side. All right, so go ahead and start tracing him. So we have and it's okay if it's not perfect. We're not going to see these lines later. This is just as a guide. So I know it's a bit dark. I am going to definitely lighten the opacity when I'm done. But this is just temporary. And if you're having trouble seeing your pumpkin, you can turn your opacity of your image back up again if you need to. Okay, so we have the pumpkin base here, and the ears are pretty symmetrical as well. So we got the ears, don't forget the inside. And then we have this white part of the face, and it's not completely even, as you can see right here on these parts. This part is a little bit different, and we can always go back and change it if you want to. The eyes are pretty symmetrical. And so is the nose. We can always go back in and change this later. Okay, so now what you want to do, go back into your layer. You're going to click on that layer, turn off your drawing assist. We do not need that anymore, because now we are going to do the unsymmetrical parts. We are going to do the stem, the leaf, and the tail. So this leaf is overlapping, and if it makes it easier for you, grab an eraser and start erasing where this leaf is, so that you don't get confused when you go to paint this, because we're going to do some watercolor painting here in Procreate. All right, so grab your pencil again, and let's just start drawing our leaf shape in. I'm going to draw the tail next. Sorry, I jump around sometimes. I don't think I'm going to include this white on the tail. I kind of like just the white on the tip, but you can feel free to do what you like. And I'm going to roughly trace the stem. I'm going to draw where these dark parts are here, so that I have reference for when I go to paint. So it's a little bit easier for me to follow. And I like that there's kind of a swirl there too. Okay, and the leaf has lines. You don't have to include all these details. We can do those later. All right, we're not going to need this anymore. And I do not have a color palette for you. Surprise, surprise. Okay, so I'm going to show you a couple other tricks. First, let's turn down our opacity on our drawing. I have hit down to about 16%. Actually, I mean, yeah, about 16% or so. And I'm going to do another layer. And that'll be, we'll rename this. We'll start with the orange. Okay. All right, so this is my surprise for you. Now, first of all, if you do not have your, I don't know how your settings are set up. If you have to pick up color with the eyedropper by tapping this square here, great. I recommend, and this is my preference, you do not have to follow this, in your preferences, if you, go to gesture controls, the eyedropper here, I like touching and holding with your finger to invoke it, so you can touch on your canvas and or on your reference photo. And I'm going to show you how to add a reference photo right now. So we're going to go into canvas, turn on reference. Automatically it's going to use your drawing, which is cool if you're doing like a large piece and you want to see your whole drawing and you just want to zoom in into a little part and see what the whole thing's starting to look like. It's a really cool feature to use, and you can zoom in and out on here as well. But we want to use this image that we have. So you're going to click on image, and we're going to import an image. So we're going to grab that same little fox. So cute, look at him. All right, and now we are going to grab orange. So anywhere on him, grab an orange color. I like to start with the lighter ones first. So we're gonna start with that light color, and we're gonna go into my watercolor lettering set. Again, you can use a different brush set if you like. If you have another watercolor one, I don't know how the default ones compare to this. I have not tried it. you're welcome to try it. So I default to my two favorite brushes is the lettering brush and the round brush I created that's meant for foliage. I actually use it for a lot of stuff. I use it for almost all my paintings that I do in watercolor on Procreate. So it's kind of like my little cheat method there for you. I use it for everything and it works great for everything. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use this brush to do our pumpkin. So go ahead and make sure that you are on the right layer. I'm on the orange layer here and start painting. So keep your brush down. Do not pick it up as you do this because you're going to have, I mean, it's so each, I shouldn't say that. So for each section, don't pick it up because if you paint and then you pick it up, see how it's getting darker? It's the wet on wet technique. It's great for certain techniques, but for this part of it, we don't want that. So make sure you hold your pencil down as you're drawing each section. I promise we'll get to that other part later. And it's okay if it overlaps here on each little section here, because see, it gives it that feel that you're using actual watercolor, so that's fine. It's just within each section, it kind of looks a little odd, and then it kind of loses that feel for the ridges in the pumpkin. And we don't want that. We want this pumpkin to have some nice little ridges since it's finally fall. If you wanted to use the symmetry tool for this part, you could. I don't recommend it just because I feel like it looks more real and authentic to have, you know, to do it this way, to paint it yourself, each part individually. But again, that's preference. If you're in a hurry and you just want to get it done, that's understandable. I get impatient too sometimes with some of my paintings, so I like shortcuts. And this is so relaxing. I love watercolor painting on the iPad. I'm actually a lot better at watercolor painting on the iPad than I am in real life, so. All right, last orange. We'll do the ear here. Oh, I almost forgot the tail. Don't think he'd be very happy with me if I forgot his tail. Okay. Now, I'm gonna create another layer just because I don't want to mess up this layer that we got looking so beautiful. And I'm gonna add some more depth. So I'm going to color drop this darker orange, and I'm gonna decrease the size of my brush a bit. Right now, I have it at 16%. Let me go down to about 5. Let's see. Yeah, let's see how 5 is. And see how he's got a little bit of dark in his ear here. And the creases are pretty dark in this pumpkin. So I am going to, actually don't like how small that is. Let me go up again. I'm going to stick with 16. But I'm going to do a little bit of a lighter pressure. And I'm going to do all these creases here. I know it's kind of a harsh line right now, but we're going to fix it, I promise. We're going to smudge this out a bit in a minute. But this is a nice way to do it. Working on layers is a nice non-destructive way to do your art so that if you make a mistake, you don't have to redo the whole thing or keep pressing undo a million times, even though that is my default way to do things. But it's nice to have separate layers I'm gonna add some, I know there's not much shadow here, but I'm gonna add a little bit because I feel like it's gonna give it more dimension. Okay, so in your smudge tool, I have the water bleed selected, and I'm gonna turn it down because I have it pretty high. Let's try 18% and see how that goes. And you're gonna just smudge it out. And you can kind of stipple with it, just, you know, tap your brush. And this one is a very faint, so I'm gonna stipple here quite a bit. And I'm trying to make sure that it's mostly on this side here because that's where the shadows mostly are. You kind of want to pay attention to where the shadows are and where the highlights are. So this one's trickier because it's in the middle, so it's kind of going in both. So if you kind of press and then shimmy it side to side a little bit. I'm actually going to turn this drawing guide off. It gets, to me, it's a little distracting sometimes. You don't need that. And see, we still have kind of this harsh line here. We're going to go in and fix that. Oops, all right, let's see. Now the shadow's going this way because of the light source was directly in the front. Okay. This one's going to be a little bit darker because it's, the leaf is here and the placement of the ear. And you can clean up edges too by picking up your canvas color. And if you feel like you got too dark in spots, like the tail here for instance, push your color back a bit and then stipple the edges, and that kind of softens it up. Okay, so we kind of have this rough edge going here, so I'm gonna pull this in a little bit, and let's go to our first layer, that orange layer. And we're gonna lighten up because this was from, the reason why it's so harsh on some of these was our first initial line that we made when we overlapped. And so like, see how I want to get rid of some of that line there because it's really harsh. We don't want that. Keep in mind you have your outline on. Oops, you can turn that off to your sketch, and that'll help with your distraction too. So I'm gonna blur out these edges a little bit. Okay, it's still slightly harsh, so go back to your dark. See, it's nice when you have all these layers to work with and you can kind of see where you need to fix it. So go in and just, until you're happy with it, just keep going over it, keep pushing that color. So it's not so harsh. The middle one's perfect. That one doesn't need anything. This one is really tricky for some reason. There we go. All right, so I think now we are ready to move on to our next layer. Let's turn our sketch back on and let's do this kind of creamy off-white color. So let's go ahead and grab that kind of gray color and let's start painting on this next layer here. And again, make sure you have your correct layer selected. And I'm going to go in and name this. I'm going to name this dark orange just for organization. And off-white. Okay. It helps to stay organized. All right, let's do the ear. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna push this back to the background. I don't want this overlapping the orange like it is. And that's fine. We'll just draw this in real quick, and then we're gonna drag that layer at the end. So just follow your lines that you drew. You could start with this white layer too if you wanted to, or this off-white if you wanted to. You could have started with this instead, but I thought the orange would make it pop more. So let's drag this underneath our orange. Turn off the sketch layer. Let's see how it looks. You know, I actually kind of like it like this. I don't know if I really want to add very much shadow. Instead of making a new layer, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of, in the areas where I think it's a little bit darker, like right over here, I'm going to draw in on the same layer. I'm gonna just draw in some more color. I'm not even gonna pick up any more color. I'm just gonna keep it on there. These ones I did kind of thick when I overlapped them as it is, so I'm gonna just kind of leave that. On the tail, I am going to do some more though, because I know right here, I'm gonna do a couple. If you just keep dabbing your brush there, you're gonna get more. And we need some in here in the ears. And we'll smudge that in a second. But every little bit helps here. Just smudge it out a little bit. And see how subtly it makes it look more three-dimensional. The middle's a little harsher because of the lighting, so that is perfectly fine. We'll smudge the ear a little bit and the tail. Okay. All right, so we are almost done. Let's get our stem, the face, and the leaf. So click back onto your dark orange. Let's turn our sketch layer back on, and let's create a new layer above that. And let's do the nose and the eyes. So I'm just gonna name this face. And I'm not gonna do the highlights that are in the eyes because I think I want my pumpkin, I don't want it to look ceramic like it is. I want it to look more like a real pumpkin. So I'm going to leave that the way it is, and I'm going to just do a solid color here. I'm gonna do this dark, almost black, but dark gray. And again, make sure you're on the right layer. Grab your paintbrush and go over. And if you use the pressure setting, if you go light, hard, light, you can do it all in one swoop like that. or you can just trace it, whichever way you want to do it. And I don't think it's dark enough, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate. It's a little bit better. Okay, I like that. I like the 3. I'm going to pinch them together so there's still one layer. All right, so I do like that 3. Let me see what it looked like if I duplicated that. Oh, perfect. Okay. There. All right, so now we got our face, we got our pumpkin. Now let's do the stem and we'll do the leaf last. All right, so I'm going to zoom in here so we can see what we're doing. I'm going to add a new layer, rename this as stem, and I'm going to zoom in here. Oops, I'm going to zoom in here as well. There's a lot of detail in this, but because we're doing watercolor, we don't need to show all the detail. If you want to, that is completely fine. I'm going to grab this medium brown right here, and I'm going to go ahead and get this whole stem painted. I'm careful of the edges of my pumpkin here too, because I don't want to go over it and have it looking weird. All right, it's kind of hard to see the lines we made, and if that's the case, you can go into your sketch layer and you can turn up your opacity so you can see it a little better. I don't know if you could see it at all, so I'm turning it up on mine. And now I'm gonna go in and I'm going to grab, I'm not gonna even do a new layer, I'm just gonna grab the dark brown. And where I drew these lines, that's where I want my dark color to be. And I don't know if I'm gonna blend this one yet. I wanna see how it looks first, because it might look pretty cool the way it is. And actually, I'm gonna grab my tapered detail brush for around the stem, and I'm kind of taking a little bit of creative liberty on the top there. So that's kind of dark, I know. So let's turn off our sketch layer, see how it looks. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm going to try, let me see what it looks like to blend it. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna blend it just a little bit. I don't want to do too much because I don't want to take away from the difference in the colors here, because I like the dark and the light. Plus it's a stem, so it's supposed to look a little more rough and rugged, but there, like around the edge there. Okay, so I don't want to do too much on this. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead, turn our sketch layer back on for probably the last time, add a new layer. We're going to rename this leaf, and let's do our last one. I'm gonna make sure that my brush selected is the round for foliage, and going to grab this yellow color, and I'm gonna go ahead and paint in our last element. Now, I hadn't thought of a color for the background of this piece yet, and I know I want a background color, so this is going to be completely experimental, and I apologize that I did not think of this ahead of time for you. I should have, that's on me, but we're gonna pick a color together. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and I grabbed the tapered brush for details, and I'm doing the lines on my leaf here. I'm gonna turn off our reference, turn off our sketch layer. I actually like the leaf like that. I don't think I'm gonna add anything else to our leaf. I think I might darken this line just a little bit though. Oops, a little too much. Okay, I love it. I think he's so cute. Oh, one more thing, because his tail makes him not symmetrical anymore, and I feel like he's too close to the edge. I don't like that. So, turning drawing assist back on, I'm going to go back into edit drawing guide, 2D grid, so I have my quadrant again, done. Now, if you select one and slide all the way to the left, and I am going to move these 2 layers in case I ever want these back on again for whatever reason. I have it, and then I'm going to select and move him over a bit. So he is perfectly centered now. There. Perfect, perfect. Okay, turn off the drawing guide. Now the fun part. Let's try to find a color we want for the background. I have a lot of colors in my palette, so I'm gonna go through and see what I have, and I will I will definitely tell you what the color is. So that's kind of nice. Oh, the gray is kind of nice. That one washes it out. Black's a little too dark. Let me see. I might go with this color. Let me see. First, what we can do here, I know we have, you can see the color through. That's because we did watercolor. So what you can do is above your sketch layer here, you can add a new layer, and we'll grab pure white. And this is just a cheat way to do it. Get our lettering brush, and we're going to trace around our pumpkin. That's the only problems with doing watercolor, is that it's opaque and so you can see through. But that is not a problem. There is a cheat way to do this, and you can make it bold and stand out, so we definitely want that. We don't want him to blend into the background. We worked hard on this little guy, and he deserves to stand out. And you can also opt for no background color at all. That is completely fine too, but especially because he has that off-white in his face, I wanted him to stand out just a little bit more. So go through, trace your pumpkin, and it's okay if you get a little bit of the edge there too. And now fill it, and ta-da! We have our pumpkin on a background. And this color, I did promise you I would tell you what it is. This color is, I'm gonna go into my values here, and I'll provide it in the description as well. Oops, sorry. All right, the value, the hexadecimal is 089A97. So 089A97. I will include that in the video description, so you have that as well in case you want this color for your background. Now, we could be done with it as it is. If you want to take it one step further, I promise we're almost done. All right, so add your new layer, go to your wrench, go to add, insert a photo, and if you have not downloaded my watercolor paper texture, go ahead and do that and fit it. Oh, it used to, okay, so they changed it when you fit to screen. It used to fill the whole screen, so there we go. Just drag it out. Okay, let me zoom out of my canvas so I can actually see what I'm doing. All right, so fill your canvas completely. Go back to your layer, press the N, multiply. If you want to turn it down just a little bit. I have it at 68 right now, so you can see we have a beautiful watercolor texture paper now on this whole thing, so it looks legit. And if you wanted to take it one step even further than that, I will show you. You don't have to do anything else. We are done. I promise we're done with this now. But if you wanted to take this another step further, here is another option you can do. Go to your sketch layer. I'm going to keep this color that we had for the background selected, and I'm going to put it on multiply. We're going to go back into the watercolor. I'm going to do the water bleed, let's see, and we're gonna go ahead and do a shadow under him. And just pull it out. Oops. Okay, I don't have it big enough, so max your brush really big and just kind of drag it out so that your shadow is fading a bit, and then you can call it a day. You can fade it as much as you want. You can bring in that shadow a little bit. Make it kind of flat on the top so that you have the bottom there looks like the wall or whatever. And if you don't like how dark that is, just go in and make your opacity lower. And there you are. You've got your cute little fox watercolor painting. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was helpful. I'm sorry I wasn't as organized as I should have been, but it was fun. It was a fun learning experience for both of us, and I love this new feature Procreate has with that reference photo. It makes life so much easier to pick colors, and you don't have to have it on your background. You don't have to have it on your actual canvas. It makes it super nice and convenient. So enjoy, have fun, and I love to see what you're doing. Tag me on Instagram, blackrose613, or use the hashtag Wonder Wednesday Projects. I love to see how your little fox turned out, and if you create anything else, I'd love to see that too. Thank you and enjoy.